Hi, and welcome to Uncle Scott's Pancast Podcast, Episode 2. You might notice that today I'm down in the man cave kitchen. I'm cowering and hiding in the basement. It's because here in Utah, depending on which way the jet stream is blowing, we're kind of downwind from California and Oregon and all the smoke and the fires. We've got our own forest fires going ourselves. My voice is kind of scratchy. You can't see across the valley, so it seemed like a good day to kind of sit down in the basement and maybe not go outside, maybe talk about pans for a while. Today, we've got several things going on. We got olive oil, we got the big box battle, we've got some viewer mail and comments, we've got a quick review, but I want to start out with a little pan spotting and talk about this. Now this is a Buyer stainless steel lined copper frying pan, part of their Inocuivre, I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly, series. They're high-end frying pans. Right out of the box, really good looking pan. Now I've got a big in-depth review feature that's going to drop maybe Monday or Tuesday on this pan, go into a lot more depth there. But I did want to take a moment and just talk about how I came to buy this pan and how you might be able to look out for some deals for yourself too. These pans normally retail for somewhere between $350 and $400, a completely ridiculous amount for a frying pan, I might add. It's not something you just want to buy willy-nilly and jump right into without doing a little bit of research. But I was on Amazon and the algorithm smiled on me, and all of a sudden this pan was $186. Normally $400 or so, $186. Without doing much more research, I jumped right on that. The next day the price went right back up to $386. Now that was a couple weeks ago for this particular pan. In preparation for this video, I also looked up some other pans, and the craziness is still there. For example, the saute pans in this Buyer Inocuivre lineup, same thing. The 11-inch, the big one, $520. That's a lot of money. The 8-inch, the small one, $250. Makes a little sense for the smaller one to cost less. But the middle-sized one, the 9.5-inch, $142. Now something is out of whack somewhere. I don't know if it's the algorithm likes one versus the other. Maybe someone somewhere has gone out of business and is liquidating some inventory. I almost don't really care that much. It's kind of interesting to think about. But I think now is a good time to do some bargain hunting if you're looking for some good pans. Okay, and while we're on the subject of copper skillets, now is a good time for our quick tips for the day. I was doing a bunch of cooking in this pan for the review feature. And one of the simple recipes I was making was some pasta sauce. Very simple recipe, delicious. All you do is take some olive oil, put in a couple of crushed garlics, a little bit of crushed red pepper, and then some cherry or grape tomatoes, and cook those down 10-15 minutes or so. And it makes an absolutely delicious pasta sauce. So I was doing that with my copper skillet. And one of the things they tell you is when you're cooking with copper, to use a lower flame, to use lower heat than you normally would. And here we can see that they are definitely not kidding around about that. Now I had the pan on the eye at medium low, but it turns out that was not low enough. I should have had it down all the way to low. Got the olive oil in there. My garlic is in there. The oil isn't smoking. The garlic isn't burnt or toasted. But when I put the tomatoes in, watch this. Oh, sorry, I got distracted. I was just Googling how long does it take to regrow eyebrows. So apparently I had rinsed and drained those tomatoes a half hour or so earlier. I should have made sure to dry them. They still had a little bit of moisture on there. And when they went in the pan, some of that moisture flashed into steam, took a little olive oil with it, cooking on a gas stove near that open flame. It flashed up. So a couple of quick tips here about kitchen safety. If you're cooking on copper, note that they are not kidding around when they say to use a lower flame. The pan may be hotter than you realize. It definitely is different than cooking in stainless steel or cast iron or carbon steel. That's the first thing. Be careful with the temperature. Second thing is, we all know this, but we probably need to be reminded from time to time, when you have hot oil and you're going to add food to it, double check that there's not a lot of moisture on that food, because when that moisture hits that hot oil, it's going to flash up in steam and can cause problems. And the third tip is something I try to be careful of around here. I got a little 2.5-year-old son running around. When I'm cooking these days, I try to remember to turn the handles on my pots and pans sideways or sometimes even backwards, just so a little kid doesn't run through the kitchen and reach up and grab one and pull something hot off onto themselves. Okay, and speaking of oil, let's transition into this episode's big box battle, again between Costco and Sam's, both big membership warehouse clubs. I shop at both here in the Salt Lake City metro area. I'm always comparing products back and forth to see which one is doing better in various categories. Now the other day I was shopping for olive oil. And in the olive oil battle between Costco and Sam's, at least at my local Costco and Sam's warehouses, I'm going to give this a tie. Now Sam's had this California Olive Ranch extra virgin, which I like. So as far as a one single leading brand of olive oil, Sam's gets the nod there. But on the Costco side, they had a Kirkland Italian, a Kirkland Greek, and they also had two different kinds of this Carapelli. So in a rare move for Costco, you actually get selection. Normally at Costco, you get one version of a product. You don't get 4 or 5 different ones. When it came to extra virgin olive oil this week, I give them credit. There were at least 4 to choose from. So that's good for Costco. Now, which one is better? It depends on how you look at it. If you don't mind the Kirkland brand, then probably Costco is better. If you want one single kind of leading national brand, then Sam's with that California Olive Ranch is probably the way to go. And when it comes to talking about olive oil, there's a lot more depth we can get into here. If you're interested, there's a very good book called Extra Virginity, The Sublime and Scandalous World of Olive Oil by Tom Mueller. I read it a few years ago. It really opens your eyes to what goes on in the olive oil industry. There's tons of fraud. There's tons of scandals. Now, on a personal note, my personal reference point of trust when it comes to olive oil was I spent a good deal of time in Florence, Italy. I got a buddy there, a true Florentine, slow food, foodie guy. I asked him about olive oil. He went to his pantry, brought me out a bottle of stuff he had bottled for himself. So he went to the Grove, saw everything pressed, had it bottled there at the source for himself. Best stuff I've ever tasted. I trust that implicitly. Every other olive oil in the world, I have lower and lower and lower amounts of trust that what I'm getting in the bottle matches what's on the label. And it affects everybody, the big players, the small players, all around the world. Now back to Tom Mueller's book. He references a study by UC Davis, which you can find on the internet if you look it up, where they went out and bought a bunch of olive oil at retail, various retailers, took it in and tested it. And what they found is that a lot of what you see on the store shelves, it may say extra virgin olive oil, but it is not truly extra virgin olive oil. But one of the brands that did well in that test was California Olive Ranch. So I was very happy with that brand. I knew it was from California. We have the FDA, we have an agricultural department. There are at least some rules and standards to know that I was getting good California olive oil in the bottle. Then what happens? I go to the grocery store one day and they had either this one or this one. This one is called the Everyday Blend. And right here on the front it says Argentina, Chile, Portugal, and California. This one here is called the Destination Series, trying to fancy it up a little bit, but also California, Argentina, Chile, and Portugal. Now they're not hiding anything. It's right there on the front of the bottle. But they had done such a good job of convincing me that California olives were good and this was good California olive oil. I bought in, I was a big fan. And then I go to the grocery store and they've kind of made themselves just kind of like everybody else. But I'm happy to say that at Sam's, the California Olive Ranch 100% California extra virgin olive oil is actually from California. What a ridiculous sentence to say, but that's good. Now the Carapelli olive oil they have at Costco. Is this Italian olive oil? Well, it's hard to say, isn't it? Now it says Carapelli, that's an Italian family name. The company was started in Florence back in the day. It says Firenze right here on the front. Firenze, that's Florence, Italy, for those who don't know. Do they want you to put 2 and 2 together and think this is an Italian olive oil? I don't know. but it does not say Italian olive oil anywhere on here. If you do look on the back though, they tell you the country of origin for the olives that go into the olive oil. So in these 3 bottles of Carapelli that I have here, this one, unfiltered extra virgin, comes from Spain and Tunisia. Spain and Tunisia. No Italian olive oil in that bottle, even though it says Florence on the front. This one here, the Oro Verde, green gold. This comes from Portugal, 100% Portugal. Yet it has Carapelli Firenze on the front. And thankfully this one here, unfiltered extra virgin olive oil, this one comes from Portugal, Tunisia, and Italy. So out of 3 bottles of olive oil with an Italian name that says Florence, Italy on the front, only one of them has any olives from Italy in there. So isn't that crazy? You go to the grocery store, you pick up the California olive oil, you look at the label, and it says Chile, Argentina, and Portugal. And then you pick up what you think is Italian olive oil, says Florence on the front, and out of these 3 bottles, only one has any olive oil from Italy. So that's the world we live in, and that's what's printed on the label. Who knows what goes on behind the scenes? You just got to do the best you can, really scrutinize the labels, and we got to hope and keep our fingers crossed that with the buying power of Costco and Sam's behind these labels, they can keep everybody in line and make sure that the quality standards are upheld and that what's in the bottle is what's printed on the label. Let's hope so. Okay, a couple of quick hitters now. We did a poll and asked, which beef fat ratio makes the best burger? Had several different selections, but the one that won, 71% of the people who responded said 80-20. So I'm proud to say that this is a high fat loving audience. No big surprise there. A little bit of viewer mail underneath my Buyer Mineral B Pro review. Mike S wrote in. He says, best reviews on carbon steel pans. Thanks, Mike. And he asks, do you prefer your Matfer pans more or less than this one? Talking about that Buyer Mineral B Pro. Says he's got several Matfers and wants to know if the Buyer is worth it. That's a very complex question, but it's also a very easy question. Now, at a surface level, at a high level, I really like Matfer and Buyer. You can probably tell I do so many reviews on both of those brands of pans. I own multiple pans from each of the companies, and I've never gotten a bad pan from either. So in one respect, you can't really go wrong with either one. Now, there are some nuances between the two. The Matfer pans, for example, if you read their labels, it says, Matfer's black steel pans are designed for the food service industry and professional chefs. Slight color variations, minor imperfections, and irregularities such as scratches are normal, no way affect the cooking performance of your pan. I do kind of find if there is a nuance between the two, they both cook really well. The Matfers might be a little more utilitarian, a little bit more geared towards the food service industries, whereas the Buyers, especially in that Mineral B line, seem to be a little bit more geared towards consumers. Now, for example, the Matfers will arrive in a clear plastic bag. The Buyers will arrive in a fancy paper bag with some French flag and French branding on there. So a little bit more consumer facing. The handle on the Matfer is more of a strip steel, nothing really fancy there. A Buyer pan might have a medallion in the handle. You might get a stainless steel handle. You might get one of these where it's shaped like an Eiffel Tower. A little bit more consumer facing, whereas if you had a dinner party, somebody comes in and sees this pan on your stovetop, they're going to ask about that handle. The Matfer may be a little bit more utilitarian. Both kind of in the same price range. The Matfer's maybe a skosh, a little bit less expensive, but I like both brands. And if you got a bunch of Matfers, I would blast buying a Buyer. If you got a bunch of Buyers and want to try a Matfer, I would blast that as well. Both very good brands of pans. Now let's do a quick mini review, or what I want to call 30 seconds of knowledge. Going to look at liners for cast iron camp Dutch ovens. These are made out of aluminum. They actually work really well. Here's how they work. Camping a few weeks ago, my wife wants barbecue chicken. We put a liner in our camp Dutch oven. In goes the chicken, in goes barbecue sauce. Slow cook that for a couple of hours. Barbecue turned out delicious. Here's the cleanup. Boom. Easy cleanup. Also, if you have a cast iron camp Dutch oven, you don't want to simmer something like a barbecue sauce that has vinegar and tomatoes in it for a long period of time. That could eat away at your seasoning, lead to a metallic taste in your food. I've been using the ones from Camp Liner, also have some from Lodge. Camp Liner about 17 bucks for 12. The Lodge a little bit more expensive, about 20 for 12. They make cleanup a breeze, they're not too expensive, and they protect your seasoning. I give them a thumbs up. Okay, I'm about ready for some whiskey and lemon juice and honey. My voice is about gone, so we're gonna wrap this up. Make sure you're subscribed and notifications are turned on if you want to be notified when that big copper frying pan feature releases sometime in the next few days. Go forth and do great things. When you get a chance, come back and watch some videos, maybe buy something from one of the shopping links. Thank you for watching Uncle Scott's Pancast podcast. We'll see you again next time.